Welcome to Life by Design for Chiropractors, episode 57.
Welcome to Life by Design, the podcast for chiropractors. Here's your host, Dr. Jamie Richards.
Welcome to Life by Design for Chiropractors, the voice of reason in chiropractic. I'm your host, Dr. Jamie Richards. Today we bring on one of the Life by Design directors, Dr. Rachelle Jug. I think you're going to love Rachelle's story. Aside from the fact that she's an amazing chiropractor, she's also an amazing chiropractor who happens to be a woman. And she shares a unique perspective on chiropractic practice, on motherhood, on transitioning from one to the other and back. So I know for sure you're going to get a lot out of today's episode of Life by Design for Chiropractors.
Rachelle, welcome to Life by Design for Chiropractors.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I feel like it's a special occasion to bring you on the show. I know we've had you on Life by Design. You've been on podcasts all over the interwebs, and it was only a matter of time before we got you on here. I know we get a lot of questions about being a mom and being in practice, and being a mom and living by design, being a mom and carrying out a Life by Design lifestyle for your family. So there's a lot of stuff to dig into today, but there might be the occasional listener who doesn't know who you are. So maybe share a little bit about your story, share a little bit about the joker you're married to, and give some context to this episode.
Awesome. Well, I'm really happy to be here. Finally, it was a long time coming. So everyone knows me as Dr. Rachelle Vanderheyden. I really do need to change my last name to Jug, but I'm really attached to my maiden name. So I'm just holding on for dear life to that one.
Well, if it does, for people, just as a funny aside, your name in my phone is Rachelle Vander something.
That's amazing.
Sorry, go ahead.
I love that. Well, I've been part of Life by Design and one of the directors for, I don't even know how many years now.
2009, Rachelle.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I have a really hard time even remembering the years my kids are born. Dates are not something that is my strong suit. So I'm in practice with my husband, Rachelle. You all know him. Just recently went back into practice after having the boys.
Mm-hmm.
Something that I really, after I had Ari, I was not interested in going back to be a chiropractor whatsoever. But after I had Betty, I was really looking forward to getting back into practice. So it's 11 months now. I'm back in 1 day a week. It'll be 2 days a week in the new year. That's where I'm at right now.
Right. Well, I think, there's also some, we skipped over obviously a lot. Everybody has plenty of story to their story. Maybe share just a little touch, give people a sense of what you've, we've all been through stuff, but, you've got the two young kids. Ari is 3 and a bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe 4 in March, I think.
Yes. Yep.
Is that correct? Yeah, I know the dates, so don't worry. It's okay.
I know, thank you.
Betty is going to be 1 soon?
Yeah, 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, it's coming up on that time. And it's actually interesting. Both kids, one's around your birthday, one's around Rachel's birthday, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So anyway, if you need dates, you just check in with me. I'll
send you a text.
Nonetheless, in addition to, being married, managing a family, and being a part of practice, having 2 young kids, people maybe know Rachel's story with some of his health issues, but you actually have some of your own.
Absolutely. I grew up just very obese my entire life, and we started our practice in 2007. And in my first year of practice, I was diagnosed with thyroid cancer. And it was a really hard time for me because living this chiropractic lifestyle, I didn't think that, something like this could happen to me. And I was really confused as what to do for my health. And, do I head down the medical path? Do I just treat this on my own? It was really a time of turmoil for me because I was just confused as to what to do.
Mm-hmm.
And, I did start down the medical path. And meeting both with you and Joel helped me a lot to just come to terms with everything. And I decided just to take care of it on my own. And
right.
That's where we started to live a lot of the principles that we talk about, living by design. And it completely transformed my health, my life, my outlook on life, my self-esteem was completely transformed at that time just by starting to live these principles.
Yeah, and you guys did. I mean, you made massive changes in your health over the time that I've known you guys. I mean, literally revolutionary compared to, where you were when we first met. Contrast that with where you guys are today, and I think that's been obviously a huge part of your success, not just being here and alive, but also the, just living that life and that lifestyle and going through that transformation allows you to really communicate it to people. A lot of the questions that we get, especially from the moms who listen into the show, and I know you get this when you pop on other shows, but there's so many that revolve around productivity. How do you manage being a mom and doing all these other things? So, let me dig into one of these questions first. What do you think it was? You mentioned earlier you had Ari, and you actually didn't have any interest in going back in practice, which is pretty far cry considering, how passionate you guys are about practice. What was it? What was that switch in mindset where you thought, I'm actually fine with not being a chiropractor right now?
Yeah, I was just being at home with Ari and getting to see his developments every day and being such a big part of his life and being the one that was able to, create the environment for him that I was really passionate about, the food that he ate, the lessons that he was learning. So that was I was so attached to that and so committed to that I just had no desire whatsoever to go back into practice.
Right.
And I would have practice.
Right.
Sorry,
something changed, right? Something switched. What was the switch?
I can't remember a moment. And I would have practice members emailing me saying, "When are you coming back to practice?" And I would feel really angry at them for even asking me. Like, how dare they? I'm raising my son.
Right.
So it wasn't until I just had a few conversations with Rachelle and some of our practice members, and I started to feel that connection again with, what they were up to and wanting to have that influence back on their life through chiropractic care. And so I just went back one day a week, and I think that was it, getting to see those people again and being able to check his spine and deliver correction and connecting again. That really reignited my passion.
Right. And so, obviously that's a huge transition going from being at home with both kids and, Ari's in school some of the time now, but still, you were the prototypical stay-at-home mom. You were just the number one thing in their life, and now back in practice one day, and as you said, going into 2 days. First of all, how did you manage the transition from literally for 3 years not being in practice to all of a sudden stepping into practice? I think this is going to be valuable, not just for the moms who are going to do this, maybe done this, but, a lot of the principles I think would be very similar to someone even starting practice. You basically went from scratch to, here you are at 1 and eventually 2 days a week.
Yep. I started training back again with Rachelle just on all the visits because I felt so far removed that I was almost nervous about if I had to sit down with a new practice member. I was like, I don't even know what to say. It's been so long, even though I do know what to say.
Sure.
But I was almost had anxiety. I'm like, I don't even know what to do. I don't even know how to run the examinations anymore. So I was almost lost. And we had new computers at the office. So there's all this new stuff going on. And so I just started training with Rachelle beforehand so that I didn't have those feelings of uncertainty and unclarity about each and every one of those different interactions I was having with practice members. So just being prepared with him really helped a lot into getting back in there.
Now, you were saying in the pre-show that one of the big things that helped you was going back through, some of the Think by Design stuff or some of the chiropractic productivity system stuff, which they actually are integrated together. Some of the stuff is similar. And, starting to redefine what practice was. Before your kids, 3 days a week, you were, there, morning till night. And I guess a big part of this transition was trying to reconcile that contrast between, okay, I'm a mom, I'm a wife, I have my own life, and now I want to go back into practice. What were the questions you asked yourself? What were some of the answers you came up with?
This was the game changer for me because with Ari, I spent a lot of time feeling really guilty every day because I did want to just be with him and raise him. And I always had this feeling of guilt because I had this practice. I had this office that I had built with Rachelle. So I spent a lot of time feeling really torn a lot of the day, and I could never really enjoy what I was doing at the moment with Ari. So with Betty, going through the chiropractic productivity system, one of the first things was talked about was your values. And I know that's something that we've all done, but now that I had kids, I didn't realize that they had changed. So I redefined my values, which was huge, because I could now see that family was my top value. So spending all that time on my family was okay, because that was part of my values now.
Right.
But the 4 questions that I asked was, what do you believe? What do you want? Why do you want it? And what do you need to do to get it? So that was huge for me, because being able to define that. So what do I believe is that I can be at home with my boys and raise them, and also be a successful, busy chiropractor. So being able to write that down helped me realize that I can do both. I just need to figure out how to do it.
Right. That's great. Yeah, and I think that, this applies to our moms listening in who are struggling with this, but it also applies to people who just, not everybody, and I find this when we're coaching with clients, a lot of people bring to the table a vision, but the vision is very often the same vision that they've been handed to, from doctors and chiropractors up on the stage. I got to see 1,000 visits a week or 500 visits a week and be there 7 and so on and so forth. And, when you actually ask them to clarify their vision, and I always make it, very, very clear, this is your vision. And if that's 100 visits a week, if that's 200 visits a week, if it's 2 days a week, it doesn't matter. And this is where, as you went through, you defined your values. So, I think somebody else might, maybe a male might say, okay, well, family is a value. They don't have to necessarily have been the ones that are raising their kids every day, but maybe they want to only work 2 days so they could spend 2 days with their kids. And that's okay. And they don't have to feel bad about that. Yeah. And what you're saying, if I'm hearing you correctly, is that was the game changer for you in, eradicating the guilt and, knowing that being with Ari and Betty and Rachelle while somebody else was in the office was completely okay.
Yeah, because I had this vision, like you said, hearing people speak from stage, I see 1,000 people a week. I always thought that I had to do that to be successful. And it wasn't until, like I said, I redefined what it is that I want. It was, I want to practice 2.5 days a week and be at home with my kids 2.5 days a week. So what do I need to do to make that happen? It doesn't matter about anybody else. That's my idea of success right now, and that's what's going to make me happy. So what do I need to do to get that?
Right. And I like what you said there about your idea of success, but I think the key words, Rachelle, were right now. And,
exactly.
we're always advising people in their strategy sessions that every 90 days and every year you're doing an annual planning, experience, and that can change. Your vision can change from year to year. And maybe what is, something that is important to you now might be different 365 days from now. And so, you set it, you go for it, and then you get there, a year later, and you can always change it, and that's okay. My question for you would be, looking back now, let's say there's some females in practice who are planning on having children, and they're in practice, either new or been there for a bit. What would you do differently then, knowing what you know now, in preparation to have kids? Would you still go for it full out in practice? Would you, transition earlier? Say, look, I'm just going to go 2 days a week from the start and work on this other stuff. What kind of things do you wish you did differently to prepare yourself for, where you're at today?
It's a really good question. And whenever I think about this, I know there's moms out there who are single moms and they run businesses and they're able to be super ultra productive, but that didn't happen for me. And I think just knowing that things are going to change and you may not be as productive, going in knowing that might have eased my mind a little bit of all this crazy guilt I would have felt.
Right.
And I think going into it, being okay with asking for more help, having my parents be around to watch the kids a little bit more, not thinking that I had to do everything.
Right.
So maybe just going into being on maternity leave with a little bit of a different mindset.
Right. And you're kind of talking about productivity, and I'll put a link in the notes, guys, to the productivity system so you can check that out. It's obviously what what you've used. It's what I use. It's what we obviously have hundreds of clients using, and it's been tried and tested over and over again. You get raving reviews, so definitely check that out. But in terms of productivity, what I'm hearing is it would have been nice to have built up your productivity earlier so you had those skills, when it came crunch time. Because I think it's one of those things, we always wonder, what the heck did I do before kids?
Exactly.
Right? You're like, man, and I'm not even the mom, right? So I'm like, what the heck did I do before kids? You just waste so much time. So I think that's, one of the take homes here is, get ready now and prepare yourself now for a busier life later. And, a busier life means a great life too, in the sense that if we're striving towards this value, which is a family, and it's going to be busy as a byproduct of that, and that's just part of the nature of having a family. So there's no 100%. no way around that. You just kind of accept it. But had you been able to be more productive earlier, maybe again the transition would be even easier.
Yes, 100%.
Okay, great. I mean, I agree, and I think that's the same in every area. One of the questions you get a lot, and we got in preparation for the show, was, organizational hacks. What do you do? You're a mom. I mean, I know you guys intimately in the sense that I know your kind of roles in the family, and you're involved in the food prep. You're involved in that type of organization. Rachelle is obviously a hands-on dad, which is great, but, you're still the primary caregiver. What kind of organizational hacks and secret weapons do you use as a mom to make sure you can handle all those things in order to make sure all those pieces are still in place?
I have a couple of things that are non-negotiables for our family. Mm-hmm. The first one I talk about is, I call it going beast mode on my power hour and during nap time, kids' nap time, and at the end of the day.
Okay.
Whereas, I used to have an hour-long power hour every morning. It was amazing and it was great, but it's just not realistic anymore. Right. So I set my alarm every morning, and even if it's 10 minutes, honestly, the amount I can accomplish in that 10 minutes, I call it going beast mode. I just do what I need to do. There's no screwing around and making coffee and this and that. It's just get done, get done. I know. Well, I'm very thankful because Rachelle, that's the one thing he does for me every day is make coffee. So I have that. It's amazing. It's already made for me.
Okay, good.
And, as soon as your kid goes to nap, I have a plan every day for what's going to happen during that nap time. I don't just, wait till he goes to sleep and then do a little bit of laundry, make a little bit of food. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I want to capitalize on that. So I have a list of the 3 things I need to get accomplished. And as soon as he's asleep, I'm at my computer and I'm getting it done.
Right.
Before I would waste so much time just, do a little laundry, do a little this. There was a lot of wasted time.
Right. And I mean, Dean is primarily, the director of a lot of those things in our household as well. But I know personally, for me, laundry is something technically I can do if I have to, if the kids are up, right? Yep. I mean, prepping food, although not easy with 2 kids, can technically be done to some degree. But a lot of the stuff you're talking about, like if Dana needs to book a flight or, those types of things, definitely computer things, phone calls, those type of productivity things, those are really difficult to do when you've got a screaming baby and a kid running around, right?
It's the worst. And when I have them around, I want to spend time with them. I want to be focused on them. I want to get on the floor and interact with them and give them what they need. I don't want to be on my phone thinking about what email I have to send, or maybe I should do a little laundry right now. I want to be with them. Right. So I do plan times. Like I have a lot of very specific. It's almost down to the second on my calendar. Every Monday at 12 o'clock is when I do the laundry. At 12:30 is when I start my meal prep. I have 2 hours blocked there. Rachel's watching my kids, so I can get all the food done, and I can spend the time with the kids later. So I'm not cooking and spending time with them. It's very specific and almost down to the second of how long things should take.
Yeah, no, that's a great idea. So I think that's a great tip, is just blocking it out in the schedule and, not getting, I think it's so easy to get caught up in social media. It's so easy to flip open your phone and all of a sudden you're on Instagram and you're on Facebook and an hour's gone by. And, I think time is of the essence is what you're saying, when you have all these responsibilities.
100%. And there's a caveat with this too, like with being a mom, is I've had to completely be okay with when I make my to-do list the night before that nothing gets accomplished the next day.
Right.
There's been times when Betty's teething and I've just ended up nursing him all day. There's times when Ari may be processing something or we've had a really rough day. So there's also days when I have gotten 0 done on that whole schedule.
Right. Yeah.
And just to be okay with that.
Right. I think it's, I know we're fans of Gary Vee, and you talked a lot about no expectations, right? And you plan it, and if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. I mean, it's not a controllable. So, and when you look at your value system and you define your action steps based on your highest values, if family truly is a higher value than work, then, when you look at those two together, okay, my kid's processing and he needs me, or I need to send these 5 emails, it's an easy decision. And, we don't have to feel guilty about that because of the value system and the hierarchy that you've created.
100%. I used to spend a lot of time feeling guilty about that because I would see Rachelle and what he was accomplishing every day and how much he was reading and all this time he was spending. I'd be like, I'm not doing any of that, which I used to do. And it made me feel guilty a lot of the times. And I because I've defined my values and I worked through that productivity system, I've been able to, just see where I am still getting work done. It's just not to the capacity that it used to be.
Mm-hmm. So here's an interesting question. It's always a good question when you start off with that, right? Here's an interesting question.
I'm like, where are you going to go with this?
So my question is this, as a mom, business owner, entrepreneur, what do you say to the husbands out there who, again, speaking from experience, is as much as we're, do our best, I think, to be empathetic and to understand, it's very difficult to understand what your experience is. And that's just life, right? I mean, I can't understand what it's like to be a woman because I'm not a woman. I can't understand what it's like to give birth and so on. Now, obviously, you can communicate those things and we can understand to a degree. What do you say to husbands that would help them understand, the challenges and struggles of their partner that would make them be able to help out, to make them, be able to at least emotionally be a support system for them?
That's a really good question. I think just listen. Sometimes I want Rachelle to know just how crazy it is sometimes being at home with the kids. Like, there are days when I go to the office and I'm a chiropractor, I'm a business owner. Those days don't even compare to what it is some days being at home with the kids.
Right.
And I know that it's hard being at the office too, but it's different.
Sure, it's different.
So it is different. I think just listening, if I'm, or any moms out there, just listen. I don't need any answers. I don't need you to help me out. Just listen. Yeah. Just let me get it off my chest that they were really crazy today and driving me nuts. Just hear that.
Right. Yeah. That's tough for us, Rachelle.
I know.
Especially, Rachelle's probably the same as me, but, I just like to get everything done. I like to fix everything. I like to make sure everything is running at full capacity. So it's like, that sounds like a problem. Let me jump in and try and fix that for you.
Exactly.
So understand on the flip side, we do mean well. I know it doesn't always come off that way and it's not what you need or want to hear, but we do mean well for sure.
I know you guys do.
Here's a question. Dana popped a question in. She said, how the heck, honestly, this was funny because when we were in the pre-show and I said, Dana, any questions for Rachelle? She honestly asked me this question on a regular basis. Like, she'll see your Instagram or she'll see you on Facebook. She's like, geez, how does Rachelle look so good all the time? This is crazy. She's got the lashes and the hair and she looks so beautiful and she's her clothes. And so it's reality.
I'm blushing. Thank you.
And so clearly somebody's seeing this, if not multiple people. She wants to know how you do it. What's the secret, or is this a secret you can give away?
I can give this secret away. You know what? I need to feel good about myself before I leave the house. So it's something that's important to me to do.
Right.
I do get my lashes done. So by doing that, I don't have to do a lot of work in the morning. Just put my hair in a ponytail and put my clothes on. And that's really it. Lashes, good hair, get your hair done, take the time to, love yourself and make yourself feel beautiful. And
so I think that's Dana's question. Like, how do you do that? You got 2 kids crawling around, one's hanging off you. How do you get this done? What's the secret?
I usually at the end of the day, that's when I'll take a shower. So everyone's asleep, so I have that 10 minutes to myself, take a shower.
Yeah.
I am very grateful because Rachelle will watch the kids when I do have an appointment to get my hair done, to get my nails done, to get my lashes done, just like you, I'm sure, do for Dana. So I'm grateful that I do have that help, so I can do a lot of self-care stuff. Right.
That's great. So the last couple questions here, you got moms listening in, people who are going to be moms. What do you say? What's the take-home general thing that you want them to walk away with today from your episode?
that only you can define what's going to make you happy for your practice, not to, follow the success of anybody else and what their numbers are. You have to define that for yourself and be okay with it being completely different than what you envision for yourself.
That's great. Well, Rachelle, there's not really much I can add to that. Thank you so much for coming on the show, guys. Make sure you head over to the show notes, and I'll put Rachelle's information in there. We'll put the link to the chiropractic productivity system. And I know this episode, Rachelle's going to get a ton of shares and likes and comments. So thank you so much for coming on the episode. And guys, thank you so much for listening to Life by Design for Chiropractors, the voice of reason in chiropractic.
Welcome to Life by Design, the podcast for chiropractors. Here's your host, Dr. Jamie Richards.